right.
I think we are live.
Welcome to Beyond the Grid, this
Hello.
hybrid show. This is going to be a weekly thing. We appreciate interactive comments on here. That's why we're live instead of just being a podcast in the background where we get to talk to everybody. We get to involve the community with us. That's why we do this as a live show. We will put it out as a podcast afterwards. We have a great show for you guys today. Today, Bernice, you want to go over what our plan is?
Sure do. I mean, we had a pretty big week. It's been such a massive month within the High Rock circles. So today's episode is very much focused on results from High Rocks. We're going to go through what happened at the LCQ. I think we can all maybe say a few surprising results there. And we're going to do a little bit of a preview into the London Elite 15 doubles and maybe wrap up with a mention of the Atlanta race as well on the weekend. So there's a lot to get through, Anthony.
There is. And like you said, yeah, a lot of surprises at the LCQ, as well as we talked about, yeah, we're going to review Barcelona and we're going to look forward as well because there's another big weekend of racing. Actually, not the weekend. The Elite 15 doubles in London is on Monday. So we will preview that as well. We know everybody that's going to be in the Elite 15 individuals right now. After this weekend, we'll know everybody that's supposed to be in the Elite 15 doubles, barring any drops. So
Which will be
that
great.
that is exciting. I don't think if you polled everybody that guessed perhaps like what the podiums would be for Barcelona, nobody would have came up with these six people.
I don't
Not,
think so. Although I will say, Anthony, I did throw Tom Rogers in as my wild card. There might have been a little hint of Australian bias there, but wild card pick.
right. I think the only person that podium this last weekend that might have been consistently on people's podium picks would have been John Wynn.
John Wynn. Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, well, let's jump into it. First question, Bernice, were our expectations met?
Look, I think it depends on how you view the question. Were our expectations met in terms of who we expected to qualify? Did they get in? Quite possibly not. Were our expectations met in terms of a fantastic race and some surprises? Absolutely. I personally didn't get to watch it live. I mean, we all know that the LCQ, it's not live streamed, but I didn't get to watch it live purely because I was asleep in Australia at 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. our time. Did you watch it live at all, Anthony?
I did get to watch some of the live streams, which were fine. You know, it's from far away. It's the old, the old school way of watching these. I just remember back when in like 2019, 2020, when I was live streaming Lauren's races back then, there was 500 people in the venue. But yeah, now it's a little bit more difficult, a little bit more far away, hard to follow, but you can still kind of see who's who. I think the High Rocks Daily live stream did a great job there. Really appreciate it, Flo, and the guy that helped him as well do the live stream. So that was great to see. But the production afterwards, just absolutely fantastic. I mean, to come up with a production of that quality just 4 to 6 hours after the actual race was ran, that was great. And I mean, Bernice, did you wake up to that? And so you maybe just woke up and were like, oh, I get to watch.
I woke up to, do you know what? I think from memory, I actually did wake up at around 2:30 a.m. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm actually halfway through pregnancy at the moment. So I go to the bathroom around 5 or 6 times a night. So I woke up around, oh, let's say maybe around 2:30 a.m. and checked. I think it was the females who were on first at like 5:40 p.m. local time. And I honestly, Anthony, could not believe the results because, as you said at the beginning, these were names that no one I think would have really expected. Like they could have been thrown in the mix, but there were so many other athletes that I think was expecting to get up there on the podium. So I was quite shocked with the women's results.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, like I said, the results is like some people might have thrown one or two of these names onto the podium as like, this is the wild card. These are the people that are gonna do it. But to have six people, and I think, like I said, John Wynn was probably on most people's podiums, but this is just fantastic. It's you see a lot of turnover with it.
Yeah, you definitely do. I mean, if we look at the women, so for anyone who doesn't know, it was Emily Darman from the Netherlands, who I personally, Anthony, had not heard of Emily before. And to those watching, to those listening, don't feel bad if you hadn't, because Emily's first Hyrox race was only in October last year, so she is fairly new to the sport. She PB'd by over 2 minutes, which is just incredible. And a question I had for you, Anthony, have you heard anything or looked in to anything in terms of what the course in Barcelona was like compared to other courses? We've got to remember that they weren't on a grid like the normal major. It was just a normal Hyrox course, so you have got crowds there, but then you got the difference to the grid. But I don't know, Anthony, if you've heard anything, because Emily PB'd and so did Tom Rogers by over 2 minutes, which I find quite incredible for both of them.
Yeah, I think it was just racing. Like they handled the race well, right? They kind of got away from the pack. They were able to not be stuck in a station with a big group and like get pushed down or have that kind of race that they didn't want. They were able to break free and kind of just punch their way in, right? Tom, for some of the race, followed behind Hide, who came in second, and then overtook him later on. When it's a lot easier when only two of them are racing, each other instead of getting bunched in that group. Like there was the group that we saw at Burpees with Sean Noble too. He was behind a group, and it was like 8 guys across, and literally there was no burpee lanes. Like they would burpee, and he couldn't get around them because he couldn't jump in front of them. So it just kind of, if you don't have a clear path, what are you supposed to do? So I think that played into effect for some of the people that just were like, oh, I'm going to bide my time. I'm going to bide my time. And then like they go to do it and they realize that they kind of got hampered. So there was just some great racing from these people. I think that they did a really good job on their races. And just if anybody wants to know, so we were going to highlight athletes today, and I guess we'll just start with Emily. Emily, like Bernice said, is from the Netherlands. If you want to follow her on Instagram, it's great to, support these athletes, and that's one way to do it is just go follow them on some social medias. She is at EMILIE period DMN, Emily Dahmen. So she did fantastic. Another young lady. So we have 3 women that are 21 or 22 qualified in the Elite 15 this year. So that's surprising to see, and we have a lot of turnover from last year. So we'll get more into that a little bit later. But this was Emily's third ever pro race, right? So she did an open race. She ran a 103.14 in Amsterdam. She did a pro women's race in Maastricht and won a 103.05. So she went faster in her pro debut than she did in her open debut. Then she ran in Rotterdam, 105.41 pro. And then she ran in Barcelona and got a 101.10 in pro women. Obviously won the Last Chance Qualifier. She also did a doubles mixed in there and ran a 59.31. So, she's got just quick times listed, but she's ran the race 5 times. Only 3 of them have been pro women, and she's been pretty successful just to start. So,
Yeah, no, she definitely has, Anthony. I was actually just Googling then, and I can't really find much, but I'd love to know what Emily's background is in terms of her sports, because we do find more so than not that within the Elite 15, field, most of these athletes have some kind of sporting background. I'd love to know, if anyone who's actually watching or listening knows Emily's background or knows a bit more about her history. Let us know, because I'd love to know a
so
bit more
if you,
about
if you go through,
where she's come from.
yeah, if you go through her Instagram, just in her past, she has some photos. It looks like on a track or Possibly that's in a tri-suit. Um, I don't know. Some of these, it looks like she's been skiing and other stuff. So, I mean, it could just be background in fitness or running or doing what she wants, right? So, fantastic job to her. Uh, the other women that qualified, Sinead Bent is out of the UK. Sinead has ran a few races more. She's been around, really, though, since 2024 was her first race in London. So she started at the end of last season, uh, ran a couple open races, broke the open world record in London 2024. So at the end of 2024 here, she ran a 58:47 in the open. Um, and then she had done one pro race before that in Milan. She actually won Milan over Camilla Massa, and that was a very. I just remember hearing about some difficulties that everybody had on that course, but she'd won the race with a 109.11, and then her next pro race after breaking the open world record was in Manchester. She ran a 104.52, and then this one. So her as well, it's only her third pro race, right? She has 9 total races, but it's only her third pro women's race she's ever ran. And so a 62:13 is fantastic, qualifying for Worlds, finishing in the podium. That's she ran a really good race.
I think I just love, Anthony, that we've got such, I guess, new athletes coming in and breaking into that elite 15. And then we should also mention, I mean, fourth place, we've got Chris Brogowski. So great to see her kind of coming back. And then Margot van den Lindenloof. And the reason why I want to mention the girls who came fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh is that we just don't know what can happen at a world championships. I mean, these ladies are going to have to be there and be ready if they necessarily want to jump in on the day, because that has happened at, I believe, every single world championships. Unfortunately, there seems to be 1, 2, maybe even 3 athletes that sometimes have to pull out in the lead into it. So we could see Chris, we could see Margot. Tanya Stroh-Schneider came in 6th, followed by Gabriella Moratti. So you never know if we could see these ladies on the start line too.
Yeah, I think the only world championship that didn't have somebody pull out kind of last minute was on the women's side in Manchester. I don't think anybody did, but last year you had the roll down from, I believe, was it Rebecca Mason that qualified in Stockholm, and then or maybe it wasn't Rebecca Mason, it was Michaela qualified in Stockholm,
Michaela
and
Norman.
then yeah, and then it rolled down to Jana, I believe, on that race. Or no, Jana got in separately.
Hey, a question for you, Anthony. I was just thinking of before, because you're the coach on this call. When it comes to the LCQ, you were talking about the kind of hold up at the burpees. Do you find that with your athletes going into an LCQ race compared to a major race, is the LCQ, do you have a bit of a different strategy? I guess what I'm coming at is it a bit more of an aggressive race than a major because the stakes are so high?
Yeah, I mean, it plays into nerves. Like some people get a little worried about it. You don't know if they perhaps have, yeah, like they're worried, there's pressure on them. This is it, this is it. So they might come out a little bit too hot because so much rides on this, and they get that adrenaline rush. And then as it starts to wear off, they're like, oh my goodness. But yeah, you got to go in leveled and control. And at this point, the experienced racers know how they're going to have to run their race. And so if somebody tries to take them out really fast, you can go, but don't get caught up with it, right? Like you don't want to run outside yourself. So,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
No, that does make sense.
cool. And like I said, we have some more people watching now. Guys, the reason we do a live show is to interact with anybody in the audience. So if you guys have questions or you want to say something, throw it on there. We'd be happy to interact with you guys and chat there. If you have any ideas about how the races went yourself, if there's, we did get some questions that we'll go over later on the first episode and afterwards, but additionally, I think one thing we did is we skipped over Melanie here. And so Melanie came in third. Melanie came in from a later wave, right? So
Yep.
that brings up the topic of like, well, what do we do about later waves? Because would that have played out the same if she was in the same wave as the other women? I think that's an important question to ask. And we don't know. We're not going to rerun it and see. But it would be nice to just have that understanding. And so one of the things I think moving forward is, what do we do about this later wave stuff? One of the things you could do is say, hey, put it to the athletes. Hyrox doesn't have to deal with this. Put it to the athletes. Athletes, you must declare that you are going for a qualifying spot. And if you type that, declaration, it could just be a little button on the registration or something. You type that, you click it, you're automatically put in the first wave, or if more than 30, 40 people, however many people are in that wave, then you're automatically put in the second wave. And it's organized by times, right? So your PR single best time, which, they didn't have Melanie's best time up at the beginning in their graphic. It was not there, but she had the fifth best time going into the race. And what you would do is, if they don't click that, if they don't declare that they are going for a qualifying time because maybe they're trying to stay under the radar, or they're trying to I want to run a clearer race, because when you're in a later wave and you're not caught up, like we talked about in that grouping at the stations or in that runs, you could have a faster run, a clearer course, which gives you an advantage. And so the question I have is well, what if we force them to run with everybody else so it is a race? Then if they don't declare and they podium or they do something, they don't get the qualifying spot because you didn't declare you were going for it. So it puts it on the athlete to say, yes, this is what I'm aiming for.
I think that's actually a really good idea, Anthony. Maybe you should propose it to Matt Locke, our new technical director.
Maybe. I just somehow they need to fix the heat so that they run in the same heat. And that's not trying to take anything away from Melanie, who, by the way, we're going to go over Melanie here in just a second. She ran a fantastic race. This is crazy. It's only her fourth pro race, right? So it seems like that third or fourth pro race is right where everybody is really getting in stride. This is Melanie's fourth pro race. She ran Poznan last year, took third in the women's pro with a 107.53. She ran Sank Gallen in 2025, 105.32, so she got a little better. And then Warsaw, she won first place overall with a 102.01. And then Barcelona, she hits that 103.20 and gets third place, gets her invite to the Elite 15 in Chicago. And it's just,
which is great. I mean, as I've already said, I just think it's great that we see some fresh names. It shows how competitive this field is becoming.
Right, and there's the whole group, everybody that you kind of expected, probably the podium favorites, people, they all finished 8 to 12. You're talking Camilla, Lena, Zara, Jade, and Viola were bang, 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 8 to 12th place. So maybe they were running with that same mentality, and these women were able to take advantage and just get out there and stamp their ticket. So.
And I was going to mention it more towards the end, Anthony, but I might even just mention it now with, we've got the 15 athletes now for each side that will be racing. And I was looking at it before that on the women's side, only 7 of the 15 athletes who have now qualified for the World Champs spots have actually before. So there's going to be 8 on the women's side who are debuting, which again, it's just, there's so many fresh names within here. So it's just fantastic to see.
Yeah. The turnover from last year to this year, 8 new faces. That means only 7 women who raced in the Elite 15 last year are racing this year. So your new athletes are Joanna, Ida, Lucy Proctor, Seka Arning, Jess Petro, Emily Dahman, Sinead Bent, and Melanie Marr. What's interesting about this is that 3 of those athletes, maybe 4 of them, are still under 25. So that's that shows fresh, like new blood coming into the sport, being able to take advantage pretty early on. So it's exciting to see that, these women have 10, 15-year careers ahead of them that we could be seeing them for, and they're making it in this early.
Yeah, no, it is. It's crazy to think, I guess, if we're just focusing on the female side, what that field is going to look like in 5 or 6 times. I mean, will these young athletes still be within that field and have pushed out some of the older athletes? But in saying that, then you've got someone like, Amy Bevilacqua, who, how old's Amy? She's in her 50s, and she's
51.
in there. I mean, both her and Lucy Proctor qualified in the same major, and, both the oldest and youngest on the field for the females.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, let's go back to the men. Right? Is there anything
Yeah.
else you want to cover on the women?
No, I don't think so. Just congrats to those three women, as well as the ones who came in, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh place. It's going to be great to see some fresh faces. I know I've already said that, but I'm really just excited to see how they stack up with the women who have been there, done that, for a world championships and have the experience. So it'll be great to have them. But no, I'm keen to get into the men's because obviously I've got a little bit of an Australian bias with we've got two podium spots there for the Aussies, taking them out.
So are you gonna get Tom and John anything since they won that bet for you against Ian?
Oh, I should. I really should. Maybe Ian can pay me, and then I can pay John and Tom for winning for me. So for those who
Yeah.
don't know, Ian and I often do a preview into the majors, and we usually have some kind of bet. And the bet was that I think Ian said that there would be more UK athletes on the podium or in the Elite 15 afterwards. And thanks to Tom and John, I won with the Australians actually winning that bet. So who would have thought? Who would have thought, Anthony?
That's fantastic. So jumping into the men's race, a lot of not a lot of people know about Tom Rogers. He does race down under. He's from Australia. He's actually done really well in that circuit there. Most of the Australian athletes would know who Tom Rogers is. Some of us over here do because we follow the sport closely enough to see that he was on his way. But this was surprising. He absolutely could have gotten a qualifying spot, but to come out and win the whole thing, that's just perseverance right there. So why don't you, Bernice, tell us a little bit about who Tom Rogers is and things that he's done since he's from your area?
Yeah, well, I mean, Anthony's right that I think anyone who's from Australia would know who Tom Rogers is, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't globally, because Tom is probably, I would say, other than James Kelly and John Wynne, probably the most successful high rocks athlete at this stage in terms of the males field here in Australia. So Tom, for example, he placed second in both the Brisbane and Sydney races. First was JK in both those races last year. He placed first in the men's pro race in both Perth and Auckland. So Perth was last September. Auckland was earlier this year in February, I believe. He placed first with the Elite 15 doubles in Melbourne with Chris Woolley. He then actually backed up that performance, Anthony, the next day. And this performance, unfortunately, wasn't highlighted that publicly because he was in a different wave. It was one of those later wave situations yet again. But him and his lovely girlfriend Bree, who I've also had the pleasure of meeting, they actually beat Tia Claire Toomey and James Newbury in a later wave in the mixed doubles. But as I said, it wasn't really highlighted because they were in a later wave. So, as you can see, just calling out a few of those stats for Tom, he's a very successful athlete within the high rock circles here in Australia, but just probably hasn't made that global mark yet because I believe this was his first, well, actually, it was his first, I guess, more competitive race. I know it wasn't a major, but he hasn't competed in a major before. Unfortunately, Hyrox has taken down the top 40 time qualification. But when I was looking, throughout the year from memory, Tom was always in there. I think somewhere within that, at one point, I think he might have been in the early 20s mark, like, 20th or 20 in terms of time qualification, and then maybe somewhere in that, 30th mark. So he was always kind of in that mix. So to have him actually take out this race is unbelievable performance by Tom.
Right. And so I actually pulled up his things here. This was his sixth ever pro men high rocks race. His first one was in Hong Kong 2023 that I think JK was at too. And if you look at his races here in the pro men category, I think the only man he's ever lost to is JK because he took second in Hong Kong 2023, he took second in
I was just
Sydney
gonna, yeah, just gonna say that.
2024. He took second in Brisbane 2024, and then he took first in Perth, first in Auckland, and first in Barcelona. So the only man that Tom Rogers has ever lost to in a high rocks race is James Kelly. So he's had
Yeah,
an
I think he
absolute.
has lost to he might have lost to Tengai Cruz, who lives in Australia but is from I'm somewhere in Europe.
Well,
Sorry,
I think
Tengai. I know you're from
that
somewhere
guy's
in Europe. I will
from
find that in a
France, but
second. But
no, I'm looking at all
from
his pro
France,
men.
that's right.
I'm looking at all his pro men results, and it says second, 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 first, first, first.
Yep, for James Kelly. Okay, so he's really just lost to James. Oh, come on, James, give Tom a break.
So, awesome job, great performance from him. It was obviously a good race for him, and that's what happens when an athlete can kind of settle in and run the way he did. He got up there and was able to put down a very good time for him, 56:05, which if the qualification stays the way it is, that's a good time for him to start next year at.
Yeah, it definitely is. We've actually received a question here from Adrian. Um, what do you think it says about the Elite 15 qualification process given the unexpected results of the LCQ? I mean, what's your thoughts?
I think it says more about the LCQ itself, not necessarily the qualification process. Um, that it's one of those any given day things. I think the right now the qualification process you show consistency over time, and running in the Elite 15 and on that grid is definitely a different race than running um, on the pro, but it's all of those athletes that are in the Elite 15 that we watch at those majors, they do go win. They take first, they take second at just about any race that they show up to. So when you're on that line, somebody's got to take 15th, somebody's got to take 12th, right? So somebody who's used to winning gets put in that position, they fall back. And maybe they weren't ready to handle the pro style of racing. But I think it's a little bit more just about the race itself in Barcelona and not so much all the athletes that were competing. Oh, am I still live? Did we lose Bernice? Or did I get lost? Oh, we got me. Okay, so Bernice jumped off, probably on accident. Maybe it's not my internet that I thought it was that was being funky. So anyways, guys, we're gonna go on. I want to say one more thing about Tom Rogers. It's if you want to find him on Instagram, he is the LCQ winner. Again, helping out the athletes. Give him a follow, give him a like. It's Tom Rogers, TOMRODGERS .J, or sorry, period J. That's where you can find him on Instagram and do that. Adrian, did you feel like we answered that, given the unexpected results of the LCQ? The elite qualification process, I believe, that it's always up. It's always fluid. Every season to season, they come up with a new way of doing it, and I'm sure it'll provoke some changes. But for right now, like that's the way it is this season, and I think it says a lot about the race itself, not necessarily all of the athletes that were in it. I don't think any of them, were like didn't deserve to be in the majors earlier, is what I mean. Going on for the rest of the men at the Barcelona LCQ, the rest of the men, second place was Hide Wursma, and third place was John Wynn. Fourth place, Joffrey Voisin. Fifth place, Alan Plough. Sixth, Liam McCrory, who is also a later wave, and seventh is Alan Cow. If you don't know Hide Wursma is I think, Olympic speed skating coach, also from the Netherlands. Hide and his teammate Cherry had done really well in Paris the weekend before in the doubles. They were actually, I think, fifth place. They were originally finished in third on the podium and then got knocked down by later waves, running a sub 51 time, very fast. If you don't know Hide, this was something that was probably coming. If you are involved with High Rocks, you know Hide, especially if you've ever taken the High Rocks Level 1 course from High Rocks 365, because Hide is one of the coaches of the High Rocks Level 1 course for one of the modules. So, great guy. We were just actually talking earlier. And what's exciting is he raced in Paris. He finished second in Barcelona, and he led for most of the race. The dude just he was able to keep it going, and I do know he is running again next weekend in London. So Hide and Cherry will try again on Monday in London. Hide, for the most part, has run a lot of doubles and relay races and a couple opens. But he also, this is his 13th men's pro race. So absolutely stellar for him to be in that position to get the qualifier. But he's had some good results before, and he seems to have just made a jump this season. Realistically, though, for Hide, this is only the third time he has ever gone under 1 hour. So this is definitely a PR. He took he ran a 56:33, and his best time before this was a 59:12 from Nice, where he finished first in the men's pro 25 to 29 division. So Hide, he's got lots coming up, and a bright future. Another young guy in the sport, right? I think he's only like 25 or 26 years old. And he has a very rich background in coaching and coaching high-level athletes, as he is a coach in the Netherlands at the Olympic Training Center. So great job to Hide. And then third place, somebody that most of the viewers will know is John Wynn. John Wynn has been consistent. This is his third world championship, and I think he's been at least qualified for, if not in, every single major race for the past 2 or 3 years. So he gets to keep racing. And if you don't know about John Wynn, he has been on some great podcasts, including Hybrid Sport Media, and talks openly about his past struggles with alcohol. And so if you want to follow him, he's John Wynn Fitness and Sobriety on Instagram. Go take a listen to some of the stories he's put out. It's exciting and fantastic as an ex-Special Forces in Australia he was, that he has been able to qualify again. All right, another comment from Adrian. I get it. I guess may put more of a question mark over all those who auto-qualify for majors based off previous podiums. Does it, though? I mean, Viola was fourth in the world last year. She crossed the line second, but had 2 penalties and ended up fourth. And she's been consistently a podium contender at Worlds. Like, I think it's, she had some bad luck earlier in the season, and otherwise she may have stamped her spot earlier on. So I wouldn't say it's a question mark over anyone like that, especially like Viola, who's absolutely a staple in the sport. But that is, yeah, I mean, I think it's just more just the race that was ran there was just different for some reason. All right, Gene Ramirez. Why thoughts on Emilio Aguayo race? Was rooting for him, but looks like wall balls was a struggle for him. I agree. I didn't know. I didn't know who Aguayo, I believe that's how you say it. I didn't know how his race was going to be ran. But he was out front. Him and Hide were really battling for most of the race, and then he kind of got torn apart by the wall balls, and he got torn apart by the wall balls kind of with purpose. One thing that I'd like to go back and look at for all these men and women is the judging there. They said they were going to be strict, and they absolutely were. And maybe it's not just strict, maybe it's just correct, but you saw women who had 20 to 25 plus no reps on the wall balls. And lots of no reps does not indicate good judging, but it indicates they were holding them to a standard. And if they weren't meeting that standard, then they got their no reps. And I think it's great that they were doing that. But I just do want to go check on Emilio, his past wall balls, because in this race, he did a 351 in London. I'm curious if he has past races where he fell apart the way that he did at the wall balls. He did a 434 in Bilbao. And then in, I believe this is Valencia, he did a 505. And then Barcelona, he did a 623. Wow, he's actually steadily gotten a little bit slower at the wall balls than over his last 4 races. That's interesting, but he is still running in that same time frame. So Emilio has done a 55-42 in London in the open men's category, and then he did 58s consistently in that 58 mark. He has a 10-second spread between his 3 men's pro races. So very interesting for Emilio there. Unfortunate for him that the 6 minutes of wall balls just was not enough to secure that spot. So those are the people going to the Elite 15. Joffrey Voisin is going to be the first alternate on the men's side. Joffrey has just always seems to find a way in. His wall ball is an amazing weapon. He's just unbroken wall balls. Last year at the LCQ, he finished second to JK, simply because he came from behind with an amazing set of wall balls. And he does almost the same thing here, finishing 1 spot off the podium and earning that first alternate position, which on the men's side for the past few years, there has been a roll down. Last year there was 3. So if that's the case, Joffrey, Allen, and Liam got to be ready. All right, going on to the men in the Elite 15 currently. And Bernice did text me. She's trying to fix her internet connection, so I'm just going to keep this rolling until we can get her back on. But the Elite 15 men, there are 11. So last year, 11 of these men had qualified for the Elite 15 and raced. And like we had said about the women, where there was only 7, the men has been a little bit more consistent. So 4 will be having their debut at this race instead of 8. So half as many on the men's side as the women. Those 4 having their debut. We are including Rylan Shadeg because he did qualify last year but did not race at Worlds. So this is going to be his first World Championships. Jake Dearden, Tom Rogers, and Hide Wurzma. So half the field came from the LCQ that had not raced previously. Interesting to get into that. And we'll have more on all the Elite 15, who they are, and that'll be part of next week's episode. But I believe Bernice is trying to log back on right now, so I'll wait a second and see if she is able to get on. And if that's true, we'll see if she has any last comments about the Barcelona men's LCQ recap, and if she was able to hear me. No. We see you, Bernice, and we hear you. So, just finished talking about the men at the LCQ. And if you don't have anything else to add about the race or the YouTube that was put out, which was fantastic, then we will start to go on to London. Okay, I don't know if Bernice can hear me. Oh, and she's out again. Okay. Sorry, guys. I will fix this. Okay. So I just let her know that we were able to see her. Hopefully she jumps back on again. I'm going to go on to London because this is extremely interesting. The London Elite 15 doubles. There is a lot happening there. Don't forget, guys, this takes place on Monday. I believe it's early on Monday morning, the actual race for the women, and a little bit further in the afternoon for the men. So I believe when it's early morning in London, it is late at night in Australia for everyone. Well, no, it's late at night for me. It's middle of the day for Australia. So it should be taking place somewhere around afternoon or middle of the day for everyone in London. But the pro doubles men will actually run first. They start at 8 a.m. The pro doubles women will start at 9:30 a.m. local time. And so we can just do time zones based off that. London is 8 hours ahead of me. So that means that the women run at 1:30 in the morning for me. And the men run at midnight. I believe.
Am I back here, Anthony?
Yes, Bernice, you are
Oh,
back and we can
I'm
hear you.
sorry, guys. I've had to hotspot off my phone. The internet's completely stuffed here in wherever I am.
Okay. I was just going off the London
Yep.
race. I just moved on. Was there anything you wanted to add about the Barcelona men's side?
No, I think the only thing I was going to add, and it was a response to Adrian's question, is for me, Adrian, I think we've got to remember that LCQ, we're probably always going to expect to see some surprising results because the major, it's a very different qualification system, right? To get into a major, you've only got your top 15 athletes there, based on time qualification and previous things. LCQ, it's go for gold. You can have, 80 to 100 athletes trying to vie for those three spots. So I think you're going to always expect to see some surprising results at the LCQ, probably more so than a major, because you're having these athletes, for example, Tom Rogers from Australia, that no one probably really knew globally that well. You're going to have those athletes who haven't quite made that major point through a time qualification system compete at an LCQ. So it's not surprising to me that we see surprising results at an LCQ.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. So previously too, like courses worldwide, they're getting more and more standardized. They're getting closer and closer, but really it's an event like this where, let's put them on the same race course. And, it's, not everybody's going to have their best day on the same day. Okay, so I was just able to do the math in my head as we were talking about London. Monday for London, the pro doubles men race is at 8 a.m. on London time, which is actually on the Australian East Coast, is going to be 5 p.m. Monday,
That's
which
a
will be
reasonable time for us.
it'll be midnight for me on the Pacific coast of the U.S. And then the pro doubles women is at 9:30 a.m. London time, which will be 1:30 a.m. for me on the Pacific coast, but will be 6:30 p.m. On the Australian East Coast.
Okay. Finally, some reasonable times for us Aussies.
So you guys get to do that. And then let's go into some of the people we expect to see. Hopefully, I went through the starting list, and then I've also added other names of people that I know are going to be there, or that I've heard might be there as well. So, a little bit interesting. Let's start with the men. So probably one team that everybody knows is the UK home team is going to be Kieran Parkinson and Tony Ravel. Kieran and Tony, famously at this point, flew to Australia, had a 24-hour layover due to some flight issues, arrived at the Melbourne race shortly before it was about to start, raced, and ended up in fourth place. So they missed qualification by one spot at the Melbourne. They did it again. They tried to go for it in Miami. Again, they came in fourth place, but with a 2-minute faster time. So now Kiernan and Tony are going for it for a third time. And, you know, this could be a good chance, but it's not going to be easy for them. But it is not long flight travel, at least.
That's true. Yeah, not as much of a layover. I think again, they're probably going to want it more than anyone, won't they? Just because they've missed out twice already. So
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, are they cursed? Is it gonna be if they come in fourth place again here, and then say there is a roll down, but it comes from Houston or Paris? Like, what
yeah,
happens in that case? That's because they don't get the roll down goes to the team that it was at the venue. So,
yeah.
looking at the rest of the field, these are the names that I saw on the list already for the start line. That would be Charlie Botterill and Ollie Russell are going to be there. Ollie Fricker and Sean Noble, Peter Schiller and Kiernan White, Joffrey Voisin and Guillermo Lavoie. By the way, this is the third weekend in a row for Joffrey. They took ninth place in Paris, running 51:27 for ninth place in Paris. They're going to be a tough team to beat, but it is Joffrey's third weekend in a row running because he ran Paris, he ran Barcelona, and now he's running London. You also have Peter Mays and Tom Fransons, Jordan Bryant and Harry Thompson. Now, Harry Thompson, again, has ran in a major this year. He has been on that top 40 list. He's in a later heat. Right now, they have Harry Thompson and his partner further back. So hopefully they correct that and put him in the first heat because we don't want somebody, ending up on the podium that wasn't in that heat racing the other teams. Also, from Paris was Thomas Fry and Alan Cow. They will be racing again in London, or at least they're on the start line. For them, both of them, this is also the third weekend in a row of racing. And then not listed on there, but we questioned if they were going to be there, is Graham Holiday and John Wynn.
I don't think they're racing unless they've changed their minds. The last time I heard, I think when they didn't qualify from Paris, I think John really just wanted to focus on the LCQ, but they could have changed their mind.
Well,
Who knows?
now it's past the LCQ, and
Hmm.
they might have a phone call and say, "Let's show up and do it."
Give it a shot.
You never know. So, also from Paris that has not qualified and it wasn't on the list, but that we think could be there or has a shot at being there. This team I actually know will be there is Hide Wurzma and Cherry Willingenberg. So those guys actually finished third in the first heat in Paris, and then were knocked down by the later heats. So those two guys, again, both of them, this is the third weekend in a row that they'll be racing. But to have those guys go, they have to be pretty close to one of the favorites for this race. They got to be close to it because they're just they're good, but there are some really strong teams here, like Ollie Fricker and Sean Noble, Kiernan and Tony. Like all these teams are so strong. Like I think it's going to be a very deep and very good field. Additionally, not listed on the start list, but that I thought was going to be there was Jake Williamson and Aaron Travers. Again, would be the third weekend in a row for both those guys. Jake has been trying to get into the Elite 15, has been very close a lot. It'd be great to see him get in through the doubles. I believe he was originally going to be Hunter's partner until Hunter decided to focus on individuals. So And then the last team that I think might be there, but we're not sure, would be Lucas Storath and Thiago Lusa. We
Yep.
don't know if they'll be there, but again, this would be 3 weekends in a row. So a lot of racing for those guys. A lot of strong teams here. I don't think you'd be able to pick out of these teams a top three.
No, I was just going to ask you, Anthony, if you want to do any picks. I mean, for myself, I Sean Noble and Ollie Fricker, I was just looking, they haven't actually raced together before, so it's hard to know, but Sean in particular is such a strong athlete. I think he could be right up there. I'd love to see, Keenan Parkinson and Tony Revel up there as well. I don't know, then you've got Joffrey Voisin, Thomas Fry and Alan Kao. I mean, they've also, I think they flew out to Melbourne. I think they may have, from memory, placed eighth in the Elite 15 doubles. So they're probably my picks, but honestly, anything
I
can happen. And you've got Harry
Yeah,
Thompson and Jordan Bryant as well.
yeah, and I mean you can't leave off Hide and Cherry because
Exactly.
Hide and Cherry led the Paris race almost the entire time, and
Yeah.
then just had an abysmal wall ball. They kind of knocked them off the podium, knocked them off the win. They could have been first place in that race very, very easily. I think they had a 20-second lead going into the wall balls, and they just didn't have a great station. So if that is just cleaned up a little bit, they're very strong in this race as well. So I think it's just going to be a fantastic race. Excited to see it. Hopefully, there's a way we can watch it, whether that is a live stream for someone or I heard maybe Hyrox might be doing a short post production the same way that they did with the Paris race, but the Paris men's race just came out like today. So, we don't know if it's going to be a week later or a few days later, or what it's going to be. But
I
hopefully there's
think,
there. If
I
anybody's going to be
think
on site,
I think I have heard, I don't want to throw him under the bus in case he's not, but I think Ian Kay from the UK HXR, I will check right after this and confirm, but I'm pretty sure he was considering doing a live stream of both. So go and follow UK HXR on Instagram. Uh, if he doesn't, well, he just gets more followers for me mentioning it. So
yeah. So hopefully he does, because that would be fantastic, something to watch live. And I know the live streams aren't always the best. They stay at the stations and stuff. Um, but that reminds me, I don't know who would listen to this, but as a avid observer of these races, I would love it if they're not going to show the people running all the time, like as the High Rocks production does. It's follow the first or second place battle picture in picture in the bottom. You can show, like, stay on the station and show everything else what they're talking about, but I think the leaders, or the leaders of the race, for the majors, for worlds, should always be like picture in picture on the bottom of the screen, even if they're running. I know a lot of people are not excited about the running portion of these races, but I am. I like to see the running. I like to see passing and
yeah,
moves made. So it'd be great if they were able to just do that, even if it was stationary cameras set up from different angles of the course. Just be able to have eyes on the course and on those that are running. Because I've watched Glasgow back several times. And one of the things I'm like, we never see Lauren and Joanna racing each other on the course because they stay at the station and show the others, which is great. That's where they're doing a great race there for the world qualifying spots. But like, that would have been interesting too, to watch those two run against each other and where that could have played out. So, all right. Anything else on the London men that you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I'm keen to get into the women because we've got a few, I guess, familiar names in there with, Zara and Kate. Both you've got here, Anthony, they're obviously reigning world champions, I should say, in the pro doubles where they ran a 55-58 at the beginning of the season. So, I dare say they're probably almost the favourites to win, but then apparently, just not on the list, we've also got Meg Jacoby and Camilla Massa as well. So there's a few strong names and strong female athletes there.
Yeah, so let's go over some of these teams, especially because I added some that were from Paris that were really strong teams that weren't listed when I went through the London list. But again, just like the men, they could show up and they could be a problem for a lot of these other women. So yes, starting out, I'll just go through the women that were on the list, and then we'll add in some that we've heard are racing. So on the list, we had Zara Piergianni and Kate Davey. That is, they're both from London. This is, or the England. This is a hometown, about as close to a hometown race you get for two people from the same area, right? They are the reigning world champions in pro doubles. Like we said, pro doubles last year was all age group, but they won overall age groups last year. They, at the beginning of this season, the two of them got together in Amsterdam and ran a 55:58, which I think at the time was the second fastest time ever ran. Uh, I still think they have three of the 10 fastest women's doubles times ever ran in pro doubles. They know each other. They communicate well. They have experience in this venue. They have experience with each other. And they're both fantastic athletes. Both of them having raced in every single major this year, right? Kate getting a podium. So then you look at some of the other women on the list, Lucy Proctor and Sinead Bent. So now both Lucy and Sinead are both Elite 15 qualifiers. They should be very good. I don't know how well they match up with each other, but it's like, that's going to be a great race right there. You have, those are four powerhouse women. And then also on the list is Sarah Holden and Lucy Earle. And then Antje Hardez and Yana Thompson. Both of those women 2 years ago were Elite 15 world in the Elite 15 World Championships in Manchester. Again, this is not a far travel for them. Should be a great race. And then we have Rebecca Hammond and Nicole Miracle are going to be racing together. So if you guys don't know who Rebecca Hammond and Nicole Miracle are, Nicole is a OCR world champion. She's very fast. And Rebecca Hammond, if you remember back a little bit of history for High Rocks, she was in 2021 one of the best High Rocks racers in the world. I think she took second at the U.S. Championships that year. And she went to the Invitational, the Dallas Invitational, and also took second, where she performed super well. She was an extremely good athlete. I think if she had stayed in this sport, she went off and did her residency for her medical doctor degree, there's just that kind of stuff. But if she had stayed in this sport, she might be one of like podium contention at worlds level.
Definitely.
He was extremely good. So I don't know how well they'll do on a doubles race, but it's exciting to see them get to throw down. And then also on the list from a later heat is Margot and Charlotte van der Lindenloof. So maybe they're just racing, already have their qualifier, so they're not going to be actually in it. But this is 3 weekends in a row for Margot as well. And we don't know if they'll actually take the start line since they are already qualified from Paris. But it would be interesting to see where they line up if they're throwing down in a race like this. Some other women that we've heard, obviously, you mentioned Camilla and Meg. They haven't, they were supposed to do it in Miami. I believe Meg was sick. So now they're in London. And I don't think it's going to be an easy task. I think it's kind of a tall order. Camilla this is 3 weekends in a row for her. I'm sure she can handle it. She's an absolute fighter. We'll just see what they come back with, but it'd be interesting to see how they go. Probably going to be in a good battle. Also not listed, but possible was Gabriella Moriarty and Lucy Davis. But I think Lucy Davis is doing a last man standing ultra and might not risk going to this for that one. And Gabriella just did really well at the LCQ. I think she finished in 7th. She was in 7th at the LCQ. Some teams from Paris that we did not see qualify. So we're wondering maybe we'll see them here. Marie McGinley and Rachel O'Connor. I think they were 4th place in Paris. So, good odds to come here. Alice Schur and Tanya Strohschneider. Both of them just raced. This would be 3 weekends in a row for them, but they did, I think, were fifth place in Paris. And then Jezebel Crema and Munza Kiro. I think also, again, two good athletes that, you don't know what you're going to get when you mix them together and throw them into a race like this.
I wonder if High Rocks really, I'm sure they did realize when they were planning out the Elite 15 doubles, Anthony, that they had planned really, Elite 15 doubles, LCQ, and another Elite 15 doubles race, like kind of all within what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of each other. I'm sure they did realize maybe they just had no choice with where to be holding these races, but it'll be maybe good to see in the next season if they're a little bit more spread out for these athletes.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the scheduling portion of that worked, but I'm sure it was just like, this is the time that we got to do it. So
Yeah.
throw it in there, and, best of luck to the athletes as they're racing. But this is an exciting 3 weeks, really. Like, we saw the Paris and Miami races, then we got the Barcelona LCQ. Now we're about to get the London race. Very exciting 3 weeks here.
And it's our last, I guess, big race before the World Champs, which is, you would probably know more than me, Anthony, what, 7, 8 weeks away?
Yeah, 6 or 7 weeks from
Yeah.
today. So from tomorrow, sorry, 6 or 7 weeks from tomorrow. So
Yeah,
it's getting close. It's getting exciting.
it is. It is
Uh,
getting really
that's
exciting.
that's crazy to think that we're about halfway. I feel like Glasgow was just not that long ago, Glasgow and Houston, and we're halfway now between when Glasgow was and Worlds.
I think we'll definitely in future eps, probably talk a lot more about those athletes who have qualified, both the solo and the doubles, because yeah, I mean the doubles is going to be a very interesting race. First time it's been done in an elite field, so yeah, I'm sure leading into the world champs we'll kind of preview that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet. So, is there anything? Are you able to pick anybody from this list of women? I mean, that's such a strong
Oh,
group.
it's a
Um,
really strong
I
group.
I don't think I'm going to be able to. I obviously have some people that I'm interested in them doing well. Oh, did I mention not listed as well?
Oh,
Would
Jade and Yana.
Yeah, yeah, they would be uh, probably running together as well. So that's another really good group. So looking, I have people that I hope to win. Obviously, the two women I coach, Sarah and Kate, hopeful for them. I'll be talking to them about it. And best of luck to all the athletes there, though. It's going to be interesting. I know there's probably favorites within the field in terms of like, well, these two athletes are really good individually throughout
Yeah.
this field. And those teams would be like Zara, Kate, Lucy Proctor, and Sinead Bent, Camilla, and Meg. So if and Anjay and Yana too. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, no, it will. I mean, I would be surprised if Kate and Zara didn't qualify. I think as well, if they do qualify, they will be, in my eyes, strong contenders to podium at the actual World Championships as well. I'd probably be surprised if Meg and Camilla didn't get up, but yeah, I don't know, Anthony. It's a really strong. Both fields are really strong, which we probably expected. This being the last chance to qualify for an Elite 15 doubles. Everyone's giving it that one last shot. So yeah, who knows what to expect.
I'm wondering if there's any teams that like maybe haven't been mentioned or kind of have
Yeah.
built throughout the season as well. Like, oh, how interesting is doubles going to be? And they're like, they saw the first one, then the second, and they're like, oh, this is interesting. And now they're saying, okay, let's go get it, try to get into this.
Exactly.
Or are there any women that are already qualified for the Elite 15 individual who, now that their qualification is done, are saying, okay, I want to do doubles too, and this is the only opportunity I'm going to have.
Yep. Exactly right. There might be some athletes from the UK that we're actually missing. I'll have to maybe ask Ian Kay that just some athletes that could surprise us on the day.
Absolutely. Uh, cool. So excited to watch the London Elite 15 doubles race. Like you said, this is the last qualifier. So that'll be going off. One thing we missed in a recap that I forgot to talk about is Atlanta was another race this past weekend. We didn't really go over that, so let's do that now. So we're gonna backtrack everybody a little bit. Going back to Atlanta High Rocks, unfortunately, the heats here were not also condensed, so you didn't have everybody in the same heat. But some of the people that at least started the race were James Kelly, Colin Stiefer, Grady Jackson, Keith Hardwick, Hayden Warner, Jesse Bruce, just to name a few. That already is a pretty strong lineup for just a local U.S. race like that. Um, so, Bernice, do you want to say anything to JK about how he ran?
Oh yeah, you did all right. No,
So,
I obviously watched it, and we should preface this by saying, Anthony is James's coach. I am James's sister. We're both very biased towards James's performance. However, watching it, I think anyone watching would have seen that JK entered and exited the wall with no one around him. He was a lone wolf on that field, and I think I saw Anthony. He's now become the first male athlete to go under 56 minutes 6 times. Is that correct?
yeah, 5 or 6 times.
5 or 6 times?
He
Yeah.
has more sub 56 times than any other athlete.
Yeah. I think it was a great race. I mean, it was a great race to watch in terms of James winning. I hope it has kind of given him a bit of confidence going into world champs. Just seeing where he stacks up, and I think everyone needs to remember that JK had no one on his back for the last half of the race. So if that's what he can do without someone kind of on his tail, let's see what he can do at the World Championships.
Yeah, I'm excited to preview the World Championships in the future with what JK's done, especially this season. So, JK in this race, he was trying a couple new things as well as doing kind of a rust breaker. He flew from Australia and landed Thursday, drove to Atlanta on Friday, and then raced on Saturday. So he flew from Australia to Nashville, Tennessee. Very long flight for him. You land in San Francisco when you fly from Australia. You land in San Francisco before the time you take off, and then he had to make another, what was it, 5.5 hour flight from San Francisco to Nashville. Then stayed the night, repacked his stuff up, got in a car, and drove 4.5 hours to Atlanta, did a shakeout run, and then raced this race. So um, obviously it wasn't like peak, going to be a peak physical performance for him. So for him to put down a 55:30, trying out a couple things that him and I had talked about, that is very exciting. Looking also, Colin Stiefer raced and did a 57:46, which is a great time for Colin. So Colin obviously is looking to bank some good times if for the qualification for next year, and this seemed like one that could contribute to that. Also in this race, all the way down to fifth were below sub 60, and that included Grady Jackson, Keith Hardwick, and Jack Driscoll. So great job to Jack D Fitness to get his first sub 60 time that I know he's been aiming for a while.
Yeah, great to see so many sub 60-minute times because I don't know about usually in the US events, Anthony, but here in Australia, I'm going to say you're probably lucky if you get the first two male athletes here going sub 60. I mean, if James Kelly's here, you definitely get a sub 60, but you might get second and third going sub 60, but kind of very rarely. So is that usual in the US to have five athletes at just an everyday High Rocks race going sub 60 in the men's pro?
So I don't think that many went sub 60 in Vegas. There was only like one or two outside the elites.
Right.
But that's because, right, the elite athletes were running their major. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how that's going to play out, but most of the races, I'd say this is pretty standard. In Europe, they obviously, down to 12th place, you've seen more. It's a pretty deep field there in terms of the people
Yeah.
able to go sub 60. So, yeah, the people here though, that's a fantastic time, and I know sub 60 isn't really what it was 5 years ago now, but that's a huge goal. Like I'd love to be able to go out there and go sub 60. So I think it's fantastic to acknowledge all these guys that were able to do that and put down some really good times because that's something you fight for, right? Just that barrier. There's like that 60-minute barrier, and once you break it, like it's the whole floodgates. Just like the
Definitely.
4-minute mile, you know.
I mean, do you know, Anthony, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but do you know roughly how many males have gone sub 60
Oh, at
in
this
a
point,
Hyrox?
you can't even keep track of it at this point.
Yeah, because
Whereas
female
with
side, there's only what, five, yeah, Lauren, Meg,
four
Joanna,
and Vivian.
uh, and Vivian. Michaela
Yeah.
Norman, has she gone sub
Nope.
60? No,
Michaela
so
Norman
only
didn't.
four.
Kate Davey did finish sub
That's
60,
right.
59:59, but then they added the time back in Amsterdam, so she doesn't
Yep.
technically have one on the leaderboard.
Yeah. I mean, JK used to be the only athlete who had gone sub 60 on debut, but I do know there's a few others who have since
I think there's
kind of
two others
replaced
now that have done sub 60 on debut.
on debut. Okay. Yeah, I think there'd just
Uh,
be too many males to even count.
yeah, the men have gone pretty good. I don't know what that line is for the women, so um, maybe you need to move the line down for the men. Who's gone sub 57, right? Something like that. Sub 55. That's probably a pretty low number.
Yeah, that probably is. Actually, maybe we can look at that at a
I think it's actually
future
only four.
episode.
I think it's 4 or 5 guys, so it's about equivalent to what the women are sub 60.
It would probably be who? JK, Ronk,
Hunter,
Hunter,
Rich.
Rich, Paleo. Has Paleo gone sub 55?
I don't know. I don't know who's done that. So
We'll find out. We will.
all time isn't updated. Maybe we'll come back to that for you guys
Yep.
after I'll sort that out. Atlanta on the other side, the
Mm.
women's side here, you had a sport staple, Alondra Greenlee. Fantastic job to her. So Alondra, I believe, has finished fourth at Worlds in Vegas, and then she was fourth in the European Championships later that year, and fourth in the North American Championships later that year, and then had kind of a mishap at Worlds in 2023 that put her down a little bit, but looks like she's racing again here. She ran in Atlanta in a 104.07, which is a great time. So congrats to Alondra. And in second place, making her way up the leaderboard, Rachel Legacy. She's been very consistent. I'm familiar with her as well. She's following our program. So she did a 65:35. So good race from her. And I don't think all these women were in the same heat. This is the overall. They might not even been on the same day. Third place, though, you're looking at Tara Jackson, 66:04. So great race out of Tara. Tara's obviously been around the sport for a long time and does really well in Deca Fit, Deca Strong, Deca Mile. So she's actually world champion in all three of those distances over multiple years. So you're looking at three great racers on the women's side, and then Canadian Jillian Cook, and then Carly Chavez Gomez and Sarah Kashinshian. I can't say that. So
No, that's great. I'm actually just looking, Anthony. I guess at like other than London, London will be a huge event this weekend, but in the month of May, I guess like what other High Rocks races we have coming up. We've got one in the Netherlands, so whether we have a few of those, elite Netherlands athletes competing in those, and then we've got Berlin, South Korea, Bangkok. There's still a lot of events happening before we even get to the World Championships, which is great to see that there's literally a High Rocks almost every weekend across the globe at the moment.
yep. And we're also, yeah, that's so this weekend is not only London, but it's Mumbai as well.
Okay.
So there's I don't know, is that the first India race?
I, I, oh, I think it is, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, so you got Mumbai and you got London this weekend, and you also this weekend have DecaFit NorCal. So we got another DecaFit happening that we'll be able to preview for you guys next week. And just looking forward to Worlds, like the women now that are in it that we see, we don't know what the turf is going to do, the change from the turf to the carpet. But you don't know if it's going to mix it up. Hopefully, it just levels out those maybe inconsistencies lane to lane. So it'd be
Yeah.
great to see everybody same course using this stuff and what's going to happen there. But it's getting very exciting.
Yeah, it really is. I'm just kind of having a little glance at the London Pro list to see if any names jump out. You'd just never be surprised if, I don't know, yeah, similar to JK Racing in Atlanta, if any of our Elite 15 athletes just want to go in and see what kind of time they can get, 6, 7 weeks out from world champs. So I'll go through that list a bit later and just have a look if I can see any names that jump out.
Yep. So we will review next week, guys. Same time, same place. And if you have questions or comments that you want to get to us, that'd be great. Oh, one thing we didn't talk about is we did get a comment on Spotify. Somebody was discussing about the relay, and so um, their opinion obviously was an athlete representing another because their own country wasn't deemed eligible is ridiculous. So I had said that maybe they'll let these other fast racers go for another country like Ronk or something. Yeah, it is. They probably won't let them race for another country just because of it. So the question I have then to everybody is, what do you think a good way to qualify for the relay is? Because right now it's by participation of the masses for 15 spots and then 5 invites. What would be a better way to do that if they're going to do that for the relay? That's something we'll be paying attention to as well as the when they announce the captains.
Yep. Which I'm hoping would be fairly soon that they announce those captains.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
hopefully.
So another thing, guys, this is just the second episode of this show. Like I said, we're trying to get a little bit better each time. So last week we weren't able to even do it at the right time. We had to do it a day later because we had technical difficulties. Obviously, this week we all had some more technical difficulties, but we're trying to add in some elements of entertainment into this. So any interactions we get, we'll definitely answer the questions. We'll stay on the topic of hybrid sports and hybrid fitness and reviews and opinions as well. So we have some exciting segments coming up. If you guys can get this, just share it with one person. It helps really boost the show, and we'd love to keep doing it.
Yeah, and if you have any ideas, if there's anything in particular that you prefer hearing about, is it, about athletes' stats? Is it, we're obviously here to preview and recap a lot of these races, but any particular segment ideas, like please let us know. We're here to learn from all of you guys as well. And apologies about my internet. Hopefully, we get our technical difficulties sorted for
Yeah,
episode 3.
hopefully that's good. Technical difficulties are the first one, and then we're
That's
adding
it.
elements. So, did get another comment here. Maybe having a time at a solo race that every participant need to hit from the same country. I agree. For the relay, maybe you have to qualify your country, right? So you don't have to be the people on the relay team, but somebody, two men, 2 women, have to possibly qualify their country by hitting a standard. And then from there, the captain is picked and they get to pick the team. So it doesn't have to be the 4 people that hit the standard, but your country at least has to qualify for that. And whether that's like Olympic standard type stuff where don't know what it would be yet, or if it's just the 15 fastest 4 male, 2 female times added together and whatever 15 countries are the fastest there, right?
I think that's a better idea than I don't think it would work with actually having to have relay teams qualify throughout the season because you're just not going to have, 4 athletes who live in the same city to do a Hyrox race together for a relay. The other kind of option I thought of, Anthony, is you could have heats at the World Championships for the relay first, say on like the Friday, and then the actual final for the relay. So you could have 2 heats of, 15 teams. Yeah, 15 teams in each heat. Or you could have 3 heats. And you could have the top however many teams, whether that was from time or, yeah, that was just another idea I thought of. But I'm sure Hyrox probably has this all worked out in the background for the upcoming seasons anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll come up with a way to do it. But thanks for the input, everyone. And do you have anything else for us, Bernice?
No, I don't think so. I mean, go follow us on Instagram. We're slowly trying to build that platform as well, beyondthegrid.hybrid. Make sure you follow our YouTube channel. And as Anthony said earlier, we upload these episodes the following day on to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. So go follow us there as well.
Absolutely. And actually, one of the segments we had talked about doing was like an athlete highlight or athlete thing. So if there is an athlete out there that you want highlighted or you want more information about,
Mhm.
whether it's somebody you know, a friend, whether it's one of the pro athletes you want to know more about, just send it in to us and we'll do an athlete highlight where we talk about that athlete in terms of what their, we could break down a race from or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love doing that stuff. I get so obsessed with the athlete's stats. It's so interesting. You're probably more obsessed than me, though, Anthony.
Thanks, Bernice.
You're welcome. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Catch
you,
you next
everyone.
week.